Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai, Dakota Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai, Namacharya Shrivyas Thakur ki jai, Prem se Gaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai, Shri Radha Krishna Gopalokana, Shamakunda Radhakunda Girigodan ki jai, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Dham ki jai, Gangamaya ki jai, Buddhabaya ki jai, Shri Deva ki jai, Bhakti Deva ki jai, Samadhita Bhakti Vrinda ki jai, Lord Chaitanya Sarinama Sankirtan ki jai, Shri Hasmadanga ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Gauranitai ki jai, Om Premanandi, glorious to yourself, Hare Krishna, all glories to Shri Prabhupada, Bhadraya Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Namo Shri Gudaya Krishna Vishnu. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Dishya Hare Hasya Bhavan Bhavataha Vadaha Bhuvaho Varo Apanitaha Tava Janmana Ishitu Dishya Ankitam Tvat Parakai Sushobhanai Drakshama Gam Jamcha Tava Anukampitam Dishya Haresha Bhavatak Pado Bhuvo Baro Panitastava Janmane Shitu Dishyan Kitam Tvatpadike Padikai Sushobhanai Rakshamagam Yam Chatabanukampitam Dishya Haresha Bhavatak Pado Bhuvo Baro Panitas Tava Janmane Shitu Dishyan Kitam Tvat Padakai Sushobhanai Dakshamagam Yam Chatavanukampitam Dishya Haresya Bhavatak Pado Bhuvo Baro Panitas Tava Janmane Shitu Dishyan Kitam Tvat Padakai Sushobhanai Rakshamagam Yam Chakatavanukampitam Dishya Haresya Bhavatak Pado Bhuvo Baro Panitas Tava Janmane Shitu Dishyankitam Tvat Padakai Shobhanay Drakshamagang Jang Chatavanukampitam
Drisya Haresham Vavana Uttadobhuho Varopanitas Tavachanashitushu Dishyankitam Tvam Padakeshu Shobhanay Drakshamagam Jam Shahanukampitam
Dishyaharesya bhavata pato pugo Haro pamitas tava janmaneshitu Dishyankitam tvatpadakeshu shobhane Dakshamagam jam chatavanukampitam
It is.
Dishyaharesya bhavata pado bhuvo
Dishyaharesya bhavata pado bhuvo
Vaharopanitas-tava janmashetu
Haropanitas-tava janmashetu
Dishyantikam tat-padakahesu shobhine
Dishyantikam tat-padakahesu shobhane
Diksham gandham cha tav-anukampitam
Drakshamagang Jam Chatavanukampitam. Dishya, by fortune. Hare, O Lord, Asyaha, of this world. Bhavataha, of your lordship. Padaha, of the place. Bhuvaha, on this earth. Varaha, the burden created by the demons. Apanitaha, now removed. Tava, of your lordship. Janmana, by appearance as an incarnation. Ishituhu, you, the controller of everything. Dishya, and by fortune. Ankitam, marked. Tvatpadakaihi, by your lotus feet. Sushobhanai, which are transcendently decorated with the marks of conch shell, disc, lotus, and club. Drakshama, we shall surely observe. Gam, upon this earth. I am Cha, in heaven also. Tava anukampitam, due to your causeless mercy upon us. Translation purport by Srila. O Lord, we are fortunate because the heavy burden of demons upon this earth is immediately removed by your appearance. Indeed, we are certainly fortunate, for we shall be able to see upon this earth and in the heavenly planets the marks of lotus, conch shell, club, and disc that adorn your lotus feet. Purport, Sri Prabhupada. The soles of the Lord's lotus feet are marked with Shank, Chakra, Gada, and Padma. Conch shell, disc, club, and lotus. and also by a flag and a thunderbolt. When Krishna walks on this earth, or in the heavenly planets, these marks are visible wherever he goes. Vrindavan Dham is a transcendental place because of Krishna's walking on this land frequently. The inhabitants of Vrindavan were fortunate to see these marks here and there. When Akrura went to Vrindavan to take Krishna and Balaram away to the festival arranged by Kamsa, upon seeing the marks of the Lord's lotus feet on the ground of Vrindavan, he fell down and began to groan. The word groan isn't used necessarily in this context. And the groaning is usually something in agony. You make a kind of groaning sound because of pain. Different type of groan, different type of pain here, experienced or displayed here by Akrura. He was lost for words, we could tell. And to express his inner emotions was not within his grasp exactly. I mean, of course he did, we hear the prayers of Akrura, but initially he's just in some kind of ecstatic euphoria where he's just overcome by his vision of the lotus feet of the Lord in Vrindavan. As he's approaching Vrindavan, we know from Krishna book, for instance, his whole section there, the prayers of Akrura, is famous for one who attains perfection in spiritual life through praying. And Prabhupada writes that we should also learn from this pastime how to approach Vrindavan Dham. With this mood of Akrura, this very much, let's say, anticipant. He's very eager to get this opportunity. So the first direct glimpse or sign of, let's say, the Sangha of Krishna, the association of Krishna, he sees the Lord's imprint of his lotus feet on the soil of Vrindavan. He sees these various symbols. Krishna's on the lotus feet has these various markings on his lotus feet, these auspicious markings. And wherever Krishna goes, he leaves his footprints. One of the means of following the footprints is we meditate on those lotus feet, those symbols on them. There's a whole section, I don't have reference to it or memory of it even, but there's a whole section of, that there was a book compiled about the lotus feet of the Lord, describing the various effects of the various symbols on the lotus feet of the Lord and how those meditation on those various symbols is so purifying, removes the various anarthas, unwanted desires from our heart, keeps in a various, say, effect. There's a verse, maybe wrong, I believe it's in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, but maybe wrong, describing how meditation on those lotus feet of the Lord acts just like thunderbolt. And he describes how Lord Shiva, the verse describes how Lord Shiva becomes all the more auspicious by taking the water of the Ganges upon his head. Because that water has touched the lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore that water is all purified. And it has the effect, it's described just like the thunderbolt of Indra. When Indra throws his mighty thunderbolt, how it smashes mountains to pieces. And described how meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord acts just like that thunderbolt of Lord Indra. And whereas Indra's thunderbolt may crush mountains of this phenomenal world, meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord crushes the mountains of describes it, the mountains of sin within the heart, mountains of anartha, etc., which have accumulated in our consciousness by meditating on those lotus feet of the Lord. Very powerful purification of our consciousness. Therefore, Prabhupada writes, one should meditate upon those lotus feet for a very long time, especially for the meditative yogi. Meditative yogi may literally meditate on those lotus feet. The bhakta may also do exactly that. In fact, when we used to go for Sankirtan in the early 70s, we would always take with us a picture of the lotus feet of Radhalantineshwar. Not so much the bottom, the soles, but just the form of the lotus feet, the photograph. Take it with us for constant remembrance. This was our, I would say habit, but this is what we used to do. Every devotee was given a picture of the Lord's Radhalantineshwar's lotus feet. Wherever we went, we would have this picture in our pocket. We would look at it regularly to remind ourselves of the goal, the means, etc. of Krishna consciousness. To take shelter again and again. This word comes up. We take shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master. We take shelter of the Lord's lotus feet. Lotus feet of Lord Janananda, which are more cooling than million sun, million moons. Like this. We always have this term constantly comes up, lotus feet. We may not, let's say, visualize or consider the feet as if an ordinary person are not considered lotus feet. They're just ordinary feet. But the Lord's feet are considered lotus feet, as are the pure devotees of the Lord. Those who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord are also considered to be like the same thing. We take shelter of their lotus feet. Why? Well, let's hear a little bit about that in a minute. Why lotus and why, what does it represent and the effects therein? Why take shelter and so on. The gopis, and where are we up to? Where do we get to? I don't know, we got groan. I think we got to groan. Groaning sound, kind of a moan, sound normally, where he's in a different mood, kind of a mood of desperate anticipation, overwhelming, ecstatic symptoms were coming upon him just by seeing the lotus imprint of the Lord's lotus feet, not even directly the lotus feet, but just the imprint. I think in Goswami Maharaja speaks on some of his recent recordings upon symptoms of ecstatic love, the imprints of the Lord's lotus feet, and his lotus feet and so on, are prominent amongst these impetuses for awakening our dormant love of Krishna. Bhava, I love for Krishna. We read on. These marks are visible to devotees who receive the causeless mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Tavanupampitam, that we were reading yesterday, or hearing yesterday, the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. There is described how the fishes of the form you're now seeing in your transcendent life. There's two verses actually. Second verse, the form which you're now seeing, that's the second one of these verses, is two-armed form of the Lord. And Krishna, this is very hard to behold. It would seem to be very easy to behold compared to the universal form, which is also described to be only you have seen this, Arjuna, no other person has seen this exact form. It's very hard to behold. But the universal form is one thing, but Krishna then reveals his two-armed form to Arjuna, describing this as the most difficult through the darshan, the most difficult form to behold, even more than the universal form. But it appears to be an easy form, in one sense. It's human-like form. But when we say, behold, it's not just some image on the mind, which is, so we say, purifying, beneficial. Beholding in the right understanding, in the right mood, Krishna reveals himself to those he chooses. He doesn't reveal himself otherwise. Most people, when they hear about Krishna, they don't understand. They think some mythology, maybe just an imagination, imaginary person, or perhaps kind of an interesting historical character through whom some sort of interesting philosophy came out or something. It's depicted in various ways. That in person is simply a transformation of a mode of goodness or something. They don't see the eternal reality of Krishna. They take it as being some dogmatic mythology of some kind or whatever. So they don't really see Krishna any more than even Prabhupada said, even if they go to the moon, they don't really see the moon. They don't enter into the moon. They may be on the surface. Well, when we go to Vrindavan Dham, so to speak, we're also a little like that. How much we really see the Dham. How much do we really see Krishna? Presence there, to some degree through hearing, we may sort of have that sort of feeling, that experience of Krishna's presence, but in reality, unless we really see it, we're still on the bodily platform of life, whether it's Radhakund or Govardhan Hill, whatever it may be, we're still seeing mundane vision. Krishna cannot be seen, Dakshi Krishna Nabadi Nabhavat Grayamindra, with mundane or blunt material senses. Cannot be seen. He may seem to be there as when Krishna entered into the wrestling arena of Kamsa, for instance. Everyone saw him, but they all saw him in different ways. Now, you could say every form of seeing was very fortunate. In fact, it was, but not everybody saw him for what he is, exactly, at least his fullness. Some saw him as a proud young, Kshatriya or coward boy or whatever. Some saw him as a cynosure, the most attractive personality, very nice. Some saw him as death personified. Different things. Everyone saw him different. The super soul. Different persons saw him in different ways because of the different conditionings of living entities. And some were pure and most were not. Mixed vision. So we have a mixed understanding as long as our heart is impure. The heart has become purified. When the heart becomes purified, or our vision, our consciousness, our perception becomes purified. Dakshi Krishna Namadina Baba. Sevamukha, by hearing and chanting, especially by chanting, using the mantra, Sevamukha, service beginning with the mantra, taking prasadam, chanting the holy names. Gradually one's consciousness becomes purified. Krishna reveals himself. He's already present here, but we cannot see. Our consciousness is covered. He's present everywhere. We cannot see. The universal form, of course, it's the unmanifested form, we could say, it's the very creation we're perceiving now, behind it all. Even that we don't have the eyes to see. Very hard to see. We can only sort of imagine some kind of great power behind it all, and maybe visualize to some extent the wheel of time devouring everything or something. So when we look at the great sky, how vast is the sky, or the ocean, or the mountain, or something which may give us some kind of impression of the greatness of God's presence in this creation. But it's not the same as the vision which Arjuna was given. Krishna gave him divine eyes, special eyes to see this. Well, we may think that Arjuna didn't have visionary eyes to see, but actually his eyes were premanjana chuta bhakti vilochanena. His eyes were saturated with love for Krishna. He couldn't see this form any more than the residents of Vrindavan could see Vaikuntha when Krishna gave him a vision of Vaikuntha. To them it was boring. It wasn't like, wow, God, where am I? What are you doing here? What is this place? This boring place. who want to go back to the cow pasture grounds? Get on with the real business, you know. All these people worshipping this God with reverence is also mechanical looking. They weren't attracted. They had a different vision of Krishna. Arjuna's vision, of course, he was Sakiras, a friendly relationship with Krishna. He was saturated with love for Krishna. It wasn't interesting for him to see this universal form, ghastly form, scary form. You know, where's this rasa? What type of loving relationship you have with the universal form? Not very positively direct, that's for sure. Maybe horror or ghastliness, fear or something, wonder, something like that, but not loving. Oh, I love you so much. Oh, Virat Rupa, I love you. I want to embrace you. Don't worry, the Virat Rupa will embrace us. Not the same way that we may imagine. But real time is this way of crushing everything. But not this totally different. So Arjuna didn't have those eyes to see that. He had no interest. Krishna basically had to cover his transcendental vision in order to give him a vision of the universal form. Others are hankering to see that form, that universal form, that cosmic manifestation. They think I was reading, oh my goodness, I was reading something most fascinating this morning. It was the first Bhagavad Gita, 1968 edition, which was edited, actually produced, by Roy Ram Das Adhikari, one of the first disciples of Sri Prabhupada, Raymond Murray, one of Prabhupada's first disciples. And he is writing this and that in the introduction, but in his words, words at the beginning of the book. Then he introduces, lo and behold, the one and only, what's his name? Allen Ginsberg. And Allen Ginsberg begins to, right there in front of the book, you probably never read it because you don't see that book anymore. The first edition of Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, a little abridged version produced by Collier Books in New York, or Collier Milan in London, was produced in 1968. By the magical arrangement of Brahmananda Padu. The story. But there you see Allen Ginsberg going off on one tangent and another, talking about the majestic universal form, and God, you couldn't make a word of sense out of what he's talking. It's right there as words of recognition or praise of the Bhagavad Gita. And then some other person says, actually, I don't believe in Krishna or the Bhagavad Gita, giving their, writings to, so say, glorify the Bhagavad Gita. And this is written right there in the beginning. Some Jewish lady writing about it. It's interesting stuff, but this is all kind of figment of the imagination she's going on like this. And then Ginsberg's talking about, God, I can't remember the word. It's all one weird, like definitely someone high on LSD or something writing about the Bhagavad Gita. They put that in the preface of the first Bhagavad Gita. Quite amazing. And how the universal form is like the objective goal of every aspiring transcendentalist, and, the glories of Emerson, the transcendentalists, and so on and so forth. And persons I'd never even heard of, he's talking about there, how these persons are like self-realized, elevated souls who were giving us a vision of the divine, unseen, unborn, this, that, the other, and on he was going. They think this is the goal of the Bhagavad Gita, this universal form. And Arjuna was given those eyes. We were saying that, Emerson, what was his name? Emerson, Lake and Palmer. No, Emerson and the other philosopher, what was his name? American. Whitman, all kinds of American. How they had divine eyes to reveal these, and how the saint David Isherwood reveals the truth in his speculative interpretation of the Bhagavad Gita and so on and so forth. No idea what's really going on, what to do. And even that is just a temporary form. A temporary form of its tiny little universe. But the real form is the two-heart form. And that is the hardest thing. People reject it. They may say it looks nice just like you look nice or something like that. But they cannot understand it. They cannot approach the lotus feet of that Lord. What is that lotus feet? Even in the material sense of the term, people bow down at my feet. Bow down at my feet. Bow down. When you want to humiliate somebody or make them surrender or something. Bow down. You see, sometimes even references in Scripture, particularly in Bible, different places. The feet touch your feet, touch my feet, this and that. What is it? Was it just to humiliate somebody? Is it some proud guy? Maybe it is. But it's an act. What does it represent? It represents the act of surrender, act of submission, of seeing oneself as lower, in a lowly position, servant as a servant. It represents that, literally. Of course, we may do it with pride, we may do it with total ignorance. But it actually represents this principle of surrender, of taking shelter underneath the lotus feet of the Lord. Just like Krishna gave shelter of the Giriraj Maharaj, lifted up over down the hill and gave shelter. It was all very safe there against all dangers. So many dangers there. Samasatagi, Padapalava, Balam, Padam, Punya, Yashomari, Bambia, Padam, Padam, Yadam, there is no other shelter in the creation of the Lord, other than the shelter of his lotus feet. When you take shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord, there is no other shelter. We can read, I think it's right here in this volume, I'm not sure. 10:1 to verse 5 of this. 10:1:5. The advent of Lord Krishna. Here it is, a beautiful verse. I won't read the whole Sanskrit. But the English goes like this. 10:1:5, 5 to 7. Well, it's not 5 to 7, it's 8:35. But anyway, this is 5 to 7. Taking the boat of Krishna's lotus feet, my grandfather Arjuna and others crossed the ocean of the battlefield of Kurukshetra, in which such commanders as Bhishma Dev resembled great fish that could very easily have swallowed them. By the mercy of Lord Krishna, my grandfathers crossed this ocean, which was very difficult to cross, as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. Because my mother surrendered unto Lord Krishna's lotus feet, the Lord, Sudarshan Chakra in hand, entered her womb and saved my body. This is Parikshit Maharaj, by the way, he's speaking. Saved my body of the last remaining descendant of the Kurus and the Pandavas, which was almost destroyed by the fiery weapon of Ashwatthama. Lord Sri Krishna, appearing within and outside of all materially embodied living beings by his own potency in the forms of eternal time, that is, as Paramatma and as Virat Rupa, gave liberation to everyone, either as cruel death or as life. Kindly enlighten me by describing his transcendental characteristics. As a last resort, there is no other shelter. We try to take shelter of the various varieties within the Virat Rupa that is visible to us. But then we realize there is no shelter in this world. Nothing can give us shelter from eternal time. Only if we take shelter of eternal time itself in the form, ultimately the form of Krishna. Time I am, Krishna says. We have to take shelter if we want to become free of the cycle of time, free of the dangers, just like here we're hearing about the removal of demons from the face of the earth, or removal of demons from our hearts. Our hearts like the face of the earth in many ways, full of battles, full of contradictions, full of difficult situations, stress and what have you, full of unfulfilled desires, motives, and so on and so forth. All of this is just like a microcosmic form of the universal form in one sense within our own hearts. All of that can be removed, just like we see with Dhruva Maharaj. When Dhruva Maharaj was in that predicament after his brother had been killed by a yaksha, and he became enraged and went on the warpath against the entire yaksha race and was slaughtering left, right and centre. Very angry. The yakshas were very mystical, so they also had great mystic powers beyond the imagination of modern day warfare, etc. But the yakshas then cast various spells, and Dhruva Maharaj was in a very precarious situation in one sense. It appeared like he was, because it was all a state of the mind, which in one sense everything is anyway. This was directly a state of a mental vision on the subtle plane. So they completely attacked him on the subtle plane with these mystical forces. And he was seeing like countless hobgoblins and witches and horrendous things, and blood and pus crashing down to him. And this horrible, horrible situation, dreadful situation, hellish situation he suddenly found himself in. And by then, all dissipated when he remembers the Supreme Personality of Godhead, especially his lotus feet. Everything is removed. Meditation on the lotus feet of the Lord removes all the dirt, all the sinful desires and different impressions which are on our hearts. Our heart is kalatmika, is very coloured by various associations within this universe, with our sojourn within this universe. Countless lifetimes accumulate various concepts within our consciousness, coming in the form of unending desires. All of that can be cleared up by the power of the presence of the Lord's lotus feet, by our meditation upon those lotus feet. Removes them all. Prabhupada said, with one kick of my feet, or my foot, or even my toe, I can kick out all of this nonsense in your heart. You have to allow it to happen. You have to allow the dust, sometimes the dust we hear, the dust of the lotus feet. That dust is sometimes interpreted in different ways. To be literal, well, you can take it literally, there's no doubt that's also very purifying. Krishna himself describes the power of the dust of his lotus feet. But if we take it in a practical term, it means, in one sense, the dust of the lotus feet, there's to be an atom of the lotus feet of the Lord, Lord Chaitanya praise. That to be in that mood, in that position of the Lord's unalloyed representative, who comes into this universe to give shelter. And the shelter he gives is by giving us this umbrella of bhakti, devotion. He gives us that umbrella. We can take shelter in the safe boat of bhakti. Pure devotees bring this boat into the universe. The Lord's lotus feet are likened to that boat. We enter into that boat, and as long as we stay on that boat, the one is considered in a liberated situation, above. It's like you've been in an ocean. I'm sure you've all travelled over water, and maybe not the ocean. Don't do that so often. Maybe you've been to the United Kingdom by the ferry or something. It's not exactly a ferry, an ocean. A ferry. It's not exactly an ocean, but the water is part of it. It's connected to the ocean. But if you go by boat to America, which not many people do, maybe on one of these pleasure cruises, what they call them, ocean liners or whatever, you may cross the ocean, but usually people don't. And the rich people may do that, I guess. But most people fly nowadays. So if you have, you know that you're in a very, sort of, we say, precarious position. In one sense, it's a little tiny boat in this vast ocean, crossing over, and sometimes very big waves. Some storm comes in. It can be quite scary. But it's not as scary as when you fall over the side of the boat. They may look very small, hopeless, helpless sometimes. But if you fall over the side of the boat, you're finished. You're finished, you're drowned in the ocean. When I was a kid, maybe 5, 6 years old, we used to go to the Channel Islands for holidays from England. And to me, as a little tiny kid, maybe not even that old, I can't remember, I was really young, you get seasick. And oftentimes kids get seasick because the boat's going up and down. I remember one time, it seemed to be very rough, at least to me it did. And I got seasick and I was crying and crying, I can still see it. Crying, "Mommy, I want to get off this boat, I want to get off this boat." I was punching her because she wouldn't let me off. We were holding on, she wouldn't let me off the boat. I thought it was the boat that was causing the problem. And it's not, it's the fact that the boat's on the ocean. And sometimes we think, oh, this boat of devotional service, my God, there's so much problems here. I don't like these people on the boat, they're horrible people. They give me a hard time, they make me clean the floor and do all sorts of horrible things. They ask me to, wash the pots. Who do they think they are? Well, they do it themselves if they want the pot washed. Okay, then you don't eat either. No food. Okay, I'm getting off the boat, I'm going back in the ocean. Bloop. 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 You bloop. You bloop back into the water. Pop. You let go of the lotus feet of the Lord. Okay, it might be a little bit rocky sometimes because we're still in contact with the material energy and a bit rough sometimes. It feels a bit rough sometimes. It's nothing compared to the ultimate, let's say, journey within the universe, which the soul goes through. Battling to try to make it nice, but there's no such thing as a nice journey in this universe. It just looks like that for a few moments. This boat of the lotus feet of the Lord, it manifests in the form of pure devotional service. We take shelter of that pure devotional service. We can cross over this great ocean of birth and death. The special mercy of the Lord. In the very chapter you're on now, maybe a few verses earlier, see if we can find it. Here we go. O lotus-eyed Lord, by concentrating one's meditation on your lotus feet, which are the reservoir of all existence, and by accepting those lotus feet as the boat by which to cross the ocean of nescience, one follows in the footsteps of Maharajas, great saints, sages and devotees. By this simple process one can cross the ocean of nescience as easily as one steps over the hoofprint of a calf. The great ocean of material existence becomes very insignificant when we take shelter of the Lord's lotus. We have the example of Upendra, Lord Vamadev. And he looks like a tiny little dwarf Brahmana boy. Yet with one pace of his little teeny foot, he expanded the cover of the whole lower and middle planetary systems, and with his second step, he covered the higher planets, and his toe, his big toe, burst through the coverings of the universe, and in came the Ganga, Ganges water, which touched his lotus toe, his lotus foot into the universe, and purified the whole universe. See, it's very powerful. Not just a little foot. It's greater than the entire universe is put together. So we take shelter of the great, and we don't have to fear anymore the dangers of material existence. We'll finish this purport. The demigods were jubilant not only because of the appearance of the Supreme Lord. We'll just finish the previous one. It's by the causeless mercy of the Lord that one can see these footprints, and will see Krishna in any form, or I'll see it, or even understand the nature of the holy name, or the nature of pure devotional service. We take it for granted, we take it as an ordinary activity, a relative activity of something or another. We don't realize how fortunate we are. This very word is mentioned here, anukam. Greatly, most, very, very fortunate to have this opportunity to come into contact with pure devotional service. Great fortune, dishya. This word cannot come to the mercy, calls us mercy. We don't realize that this is descended upon us. We don't take advantage of it. We're looking the other way half the time, if not more. The gopis always thought of the Lord's lotus feet when he was walking in the pasturing grounds, and as described in a previous verse, simply by thinking of the Lord's lotus feet, the gopis were fully absorbed in transcendence. Avishta navavaya kalpate. Like the gopis, one who is always absorbed in thought of the Lord is beyond the material platform and will not remain in this material world. It is our duty, therefore, always to hear, chant, and think about the Lord's lotus feet, as actually done by Vaishnavas who have decided to live in Vrindavan, always, and think of the Lord's lotus feet 24 hours a day. Doesn't sound very easy, does it? Even to think of the Lord's lotus feet is like, what do I do? I mean, exactly what does that mean, no? It's sort of like, think of it, it's like kind of weird, boring or something, you know. How do I do that? Well, it's interesting because we see that, you know, this, I can read, I don't have time to read it all, but we'll read something. I'll never finish it all from that. But I was just looking this morning at something. Where is it? Here we go. Oh yeah, here's a verse. This is quoted in the 12th canto Srimad Bhagavatam. It's actually from the Brahmadiya Purana. Jayan Krite Yajan Yogyais Tritayam Brahare Yadapnoti Tadapnoti Kalo Sankirtikation. Whatever is achieved by meditation in Satya Yuga, by the performance of sacrifice in Treta Yuga, and by the worship of Lord Krishna's lotus feet in the Dwapara Yuga, is obtained in the age of Kali simply by glorifying the name of Lord Krishna. And Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur, I think it's one of the comments says that what it means in Kali Yuga to meditate on the lotus feet of the Lord. So those lotus feet have appeared in this age of Kali in the manifestation of Lord Chaitanya's Sankirtan. That by the chanting of the holy name, this is the actual meaning of meditating upon the Lord's lotus feet. We chant the holy name of Krishna. How does that interpret in terms of, say, practical understanding? Well, taking shelter of the lotus feet means taking shelter of the will of the Lord. Taking shelter of those who are at the lotus feet, the pure devotees. Taking the dust of their lotus feet means the instructions which they are giving us. There are different ways of understanding this, but this is a practical way. Taking shelter of the instructions which the pure devotees give us, which are none different than the will of the Lord. They're one with the will of the Lord. So we take shelter of those instructions. So in different ages we see the Lord giving different instructions as means to attain Him. And Treta Yuga is literally taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. In terms of the practical application of taking shelter of the lotus feet, other than what we've just heard in Kali Yuga, it means taking shelter of the chanting of the Lord's holy name or glorifying the Lord's holy name. It also infers or refers directly to the practice. We see that Lakshmi Devi is mentioned in various places as one who perfects herself, or which is eternally perfect, but nonetheless she's showing the path of perfection by always massaging the Lord's lotus feet. So it could be taken literally as massaging the Lord's lotus feet. And we often hear devotees like King Kurusha and King Prataparudra, for instance, massaging the lotus feet of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or others taking advantage to massage Sri Prabhupada's lotus feet. Is said is one of the great aspirations of all sincere devotees. They want to massage the lotus feet of the Lord, or the Lord's pure devotees. Or bathing those lotus feet, abhishek, traditionally, when anyone would enter a home of a cultured person in India, the first thing they do is they wash your feet. They perform like an abhishek of your feet. It's just traditional, especially in Andhra Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, states where people have still some culture left. Every guest practically who comes to their feet, they treat, especially a saintly person or some brahman or whatever. They wash their feet, they take that water on their head and they drink it also. They consider this is purified water. They have this realized feeling in their hearts. It's a culture, beneficial activity, spiritual. So this is another way, maybe bathing the Lord's lotus feet, massaging his lotus feet, and it also involves all forms of deity worship in its various forms. That is described very nicely by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I don't know if we have time to read it, probably not. We'll try to read something. Just go to the top page. There's some nice verses by Bhaktivinoda Thakur in his writings. Which one is it? I don't know. Here we go. It's Hari Bhakti Kalpalatika. I'm sure you all read it. Sri Hari Bhakti Kalpalatika. You read it yesterday, did you? Not last night. I thought that's what we were doing last night. It's well-read literature. You've probably never heard of it before. Chapter 7. Serving the lotus feet of Sri Hari in the form of worshipping him with various opulent ingredients. The glories of the worshipper, the process of serving the Lord's lotus feet. Anyway, it's just describing what the book's all about. It's describing what it means to worship the lotus feet of the Lord. And this is his humble prayer, and talking about the glories of serving the lotus feet of the devotees, which is also inclusive. This is only a little bit of that book. The author now describes the symptoms of serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Worshipping Sri Krishna with opulent ingredients for his pleasure by those who are attached to this activity is known as padasevana, worship of the Lord's lotus feet, that you may have heard. Why lotus? Well, lotus is very beautiful, everyone knows that. So that's one way we can look at it. Fragrance? Well, I don't know, I've never been able to gather too much the fragrance of the lotus, but apparently, probably you have to have the nose to smell. Your eyes to see, the nose to smell, the tongue to taste. You have to have special purified senses or something. Whatever it is, the pollen of the lotus is most attractive fragrance. It's also very beautiful, extremely beautiful. What a work of art is incomparable practically. The lotus, many times people use the lotus to depict some very special thing about it. It's just understood to be a beautiful flower. But lotus has this unique characteristic. If you've ever seen a lotus flower growing, its stem is attached to the ground underneath the water, of course, in the mud, and it has a stem which tends to go like this. And when the water rises or falls, the lotus still remains on the surface. The stem goes up, elongates, stays above the water's surface. So it's given as an example of the Lord's lotus feet and that of the pure devotees. They never really touch the surface of the earth. I had a letter yesterday, it was a funny letter. It was a letter from a disciple in New Zealand. And they were describing this person they met on the street on Sankirtan. And this person was an elderly person. They said, oh no, the devotee recognized this elderly person as being their teacher when they were a kiddie in school. And then they started talking, saying, their teacher was very nice. The devotee liked that teacher very much. Anyway, they started talking like that. And then the devotee said to the teacher, he said, elderly person, would you like to have a look at this book, practicing spiritual? They looked at it, looked at the picture of Prabhupada. Oh my goodness, I saw this man when I was a young boy. I saw him. He was tall, very tall. And he had two big bodyguards next to him. He put his fingers out and touched me like this. And woo! I don't think it was Prabhupada. He was thinking that. vision, something like that. Anyway, how do we get around there? I don't know. Anyway, whatever it was. Well, serving the feet, white feet, where are we? We lost our spot. I think what happened there? Page mystical movement, as it were. Here. Yeah. Those who are fully absorbed in Lord Krishna and carefully serve his lotus feet day and night, cross beyond the dark ocean of ignorance and obtain the most auspicious abode of the Lord, which is rare even for the great sages to achieve. Those who serve the lotus feet of Sri Krishna with full attention never again become absorbed in the ocean of material existence. They are never defeated by the threefold miseries, and they conquer the 5 kinds of distresses. Knowledge of the absolute truth automatically manifests in their hearts. The lotus feet of Sri Krishna are served by those who are always steady, grave, tolerant, and devoid of pride in their own bodies. And then the author, you know what he is, goes on to describe that devotees accept the deity form of the worshipable Lord, which is made of stone, wood, or metal, as being directly the Lord himself. In this way, without discrimination, they worship his lotus feet, which are meditated upon by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. You know, we hear about the demigods, they're forever desiring this opportunity to get this vision of the Lord, to see the imprints of his lotus feet, like the residents of Vrindavan were getting, or Krur was getting like that. Those devotees constantly and opulently serve the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord with various fresh ingredients. The Lord is uniquely situated on a divine throne within a beautiful temple, and his lotus feet are meditated upon by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. In the early morning, those devotees wake Sri Hari, who is sleeping happily. They chant appropriate mantras and prayers for waking the Lord, and play sweet musical instruments. By performing various duties for his satisfaction, they serve the lotus feet of the Lord, which are meditated upon by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Those pure-hearted devotees serve the lotus feet of Sri Krishna according to proper rules and regulations by offering many opulent ingredients such as jeweled ornaments, exquisite garments, fragrance, sandalwood paste, tilak, kumkum, incense, and ghee lamp. Those devotees cleanse the temple of Sri Hari, bathe the Lord, wash his lotus feet, offer him a throne, flower garments, ornaments, palatable foodstuffs, and beverages. They fan him, sing, dance, and play musical instruments, perform ceremonies, and put him to rest. In this way they serve the lotus feet of the Lord, which are meditated upon by Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. With undeviated attention and according to their capacity, the devotees constantly serve the Lord by making nice gardens, building temples, digging ponds, making wooden beds and palanquins. That means probably for the Lord, not for ourselves, I think. And putting up canopies and white umbrellas. To please Sri Hari, the devotees hold numerous festivals every month. They hold ecstatic festivals on every occasion and continuously perform Sankirtan. According to their ability, the devotees serve the Lord during the summer by placing him on a boat. Once you get your lake fixed up down there, and you can take Chota, Govinda Madhava, on a boat. You can have a boat festival down there. By taking him out on procession, by applying sandalwood on his body, by fanning him with a chamra, by decorating him with jeweled necklaces, by offering him palatable foodstuffs, and by bringing him out into the pleasant moonlight. During the rainy season, they keep the Lord in an opulent place, bathing with pure warm water, offering puris cooked in ghee, vegetable soup, and cakes made with tasty condiments. In this way they serve Lord Sri Hari according to their ability. During autumn, the devotees serve Sri Hari exactly as they do in the summer. During the winter, they put a fire inside the temple, and they sometimes take the Lord outside to enjoy the morning sun. They bathe the Lord with warm water, dress him with soft woolen clothes and opulent outfits, offer him newly grown rice, and offer him incense according to their ability. In the spring, the devotees take the Lord in procession to a flower garden, offer him drinks made with honey, decorate him with fragrant flowers, offer him coloured powders and a garland of forest flowers. In this way they serve Sri Hari according to their ability. Like a wife who constantly serves her husband, the devotees serve the lotus feet of Sri Hari with attachment, affection, respect, honesty, humility and eagerness. There's some further ornaments how to serve the Lord there. Question our consciousness. The Lord is constantly served by the pure-hearted devotees with love, affection, respect, attachment and devotion, just as if he were their own sons, their friend, their wife, their husband, their bona fide spiritual master or benefactor. The Lord desires that his devotees never become distracted from devotional service to his lotus feet and attached to material enjoyments. With this desire, or to test his devotees or engaged in his service, Lord Sri Hari, who is merciful and the friend of his devotees, takes everything away from them. Be careful. He'll kick everything away. If you don't voluntarily give it, he'll kick it away. That's his mercy. If the Lord acts like this and all my possessions are taken away, I will not lament or feel any pain. I will certainly worship him in the association of the devotees by offering him fruits, leaves, flowers and water, which are easily available in the forest. I am a bumblebee attached to the lotus feet of Sri Krishna and a resident of the forest. Therefore I will not serve rich people with flattering words. I will not glorify them even if I am poor and hungry, nor will I be burned by the fire of unpleasant words from my relatives. I will give up my wife, children, friends, house, wealth, and household activity. I will maintain my livelihood with whatever alms I can collect by begging. And it goes on, surrendering to the lotus feet of the Lord. Therefore, simply by his desire, I will serve his lotus feet either at home or in the forest, with various opulent ingredients, always easily available, flowers, fruits, and water. I will serve the lotus feet of the devotees of Lord Krishna, who are as good as the Lord himself. The devotees do not discriminate between themselves and others, and are never intoxicated by material happiness. He goes on to describe the glories of serving the lotus feet of the great devotees, when the heart becomes purified. One's association with material existence is totally uprooted, and one obtains the treasure of loving devotional service to Sri Hari. And the shame is that we're not attached to those lotus feet. We're still attached to this material energy. We don't want to let go. By taking shelter of the lotus feet of the spiritual master of Krishna, then everything is achieved. One can attain freedom from suffering, from birth and death. One can attain one's eternal position in the spiritual realm. This is the process, taking shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Anyway, there's other things we could read. One last thing I'll read here. Yat pada pankajapa shavala sabhaktya. English. This is from the 4th canto, 22nd chapter, verse 39. The devotees who are always engaged in the service of the toes and lotus feet of the Lord can very easily overcome hard-knotted desires for fruitive activities. Because this is very difficult, the non-devotees, the jnanis and yogis, although trying to stop the waves of sense gratification, cannot do so. Therefore you are advised to engage in the devotional service of Krishna. the Son of Vasudeva. This is taking shelter of Lotus feet to absorb herself 24 hours in chanting and hearing about Krishna. In Kali Yuga, this is the methodology, particularly any age, but specifically in Kali Yuga. To chant, Prabhupada said, because our minds are so restless we can't meditate on the lotus feet, or the marks on the lotus feet, but we can chant constantly. This is the method in Kali Yuga of meditating upon the Lord's lotus feet, or taking shelter of the Lord's lotus feet, along with, of course, devotional service, particularly in the form of daily worship, and how we take shelter. And we saw there that daily worship includes making a nice garden, making nice ponds, fixing up the buildings, and performing Sankirtan, and putting on festivals, and so on and so forth. It's all part of daily worship, or part of faith. Circumambulating the Holy Dawn, going to the Holy Dawn. All this is part of offering obeisances to the devotees, Ranchikapatrudus, all part of that faith. Very important process, aspect of our devotional service, surrendering in devotional service, submitting ourselves. Okay. Hare Krishna. We shall finish there. Any questions? Questions? Jai Shri Gopal Ki Jai.
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 Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.
Jai.
Gaur Prema.
Hari Bol.
Didn't quite finish the purple. Maybe you want to stay, I'll just read it 1 or 2 lines. Like the gopis, one who is always absorbed in thought of the Lord is beyond the material platform and will not remain in the material world. It is our duty, therefore, to always hear, chant, and think about the Lord's lotus feet, as actually done by Vaishnavas, who have decided to live in Vrindavan always and think of the Lord's lotus feet 24 hours a day.